Hello, friends, and welcome to Tea and Poetry Night. So I thought I would change gears a little bit with the fundraising because you can only be like blah, 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 blah for like so long in a given day. But a really interesting year for us at the Integral Heart for our Giving Tuesday. The reason being is you may have noticed normally we're pushing a global giving link. We still are sending that link out, but the reality is in the past, it's a running joke that I was always get thrown into Facebook jail, among others. Possibly Joe and Austin, you've been thrown, and Mick, you've certainly been thrown into Facebook jail. So we had always been using this external link, Global Giving, to send around on Tuesday, and then eventually we would be thrown into Facebook jail. So we thought, why not? Because there was also a very good match with Facebook, primarily focus on the Facebook ecosystem. So people who we reached out to on Instagram, on WhatsApp, contacts over text, I was still sending the global giving link because we still had, at the beginning of the day, $1,400 to raise in order to knock out those expenses that covers for the 2018 year. So that was really awesome. We have made a lot of progress there. I think we're at under $1,000 on our 2018 Global Giving page. A lot of people have given through the Integral Heart General Facebook page. We don't have those numbers and we don't get them until Thursday, so we have no idea. So Mick and I have been joking all day that we will be, biting our fingers until Thursday. But on my personal Facebook fundraiser, we're at 251. So I have some entertainment. Right, Victor? Some entertainment coming your way that I hope tonight that page can be at $1,000. But I know a lot of my friends are also in development work. Certainly you are, Victor. So it's definitely an interesting conversation to have. And we have quite a bit about how we should be fundraising. There's a lot of tools out there. Mick, if you're on our newsletter list, which I hope you are, if not, you can sign up on integralheartfoundation.org. You hear from us that way. Some people follow us on Instagram. It's at Integral Heart Family on Instagram. So, and certainly we have our Facebook page where a lot of you follow us monthly. So that is the different ways that we sort of look at how are we going to reach out to you guys. So if you ever have any ideas, certainly you can just message me because I'm always interested to hear what you think about fundraising, because it's something we have to do in order to keep the Integral Heart doing what it's doing. And right now that is 83 children. I'm going to slow down and drink your tea. See, this is what happens. I get talking about things I'm passionate about, and then I get carried away. But so with Integral Heart, we have a really good group now of people that, like me, that are beneath Mick and Deborah. Maybe there's a better way to say that, but work with to support the work that Mick and Deborah founded. And a lot of us take on different roles. Joe, we have in New York, who does various things, including fundraising. Paul, who is actually the first monthly donor I ever linked up with the Integral Heart. Hooray, Paul. He is on a bike ride around the world in Nepal, and he is just this force for global spreading the word. His goal is not a monetary goal, but a social goal. He wants to get 200 people every year, or 200 people in his 2 years bike riding to donate to the Integral Heart, and he is well on his way to do that. He definitely brought some support. We have Helen on Facebook, known as Bets in England, and her class is always fundraising for us. She did the Santiago Way and also raised money that way for the Integral Heart. So she's also always thinking of cool stuff to do. We have Austin, who's always thinking of us, and he's in Salt Lake City with his family. And then there's a whole bunch. There's friends and donors that are always kind of opening their network. Angelina Del Carmen today got her former drama teacher through a post that she made to donate to our cause. So that's incredible, because that's more people that hear about us. And why for me Giving Tuesday is the biggest day of the year is because usually I'm several months. This year I was 3 months really focused on fundraising. I'm working with people on the ground like Courtney and Colorado, like William in New York, to really get some momentum towards our work, because that momentum in fall fundraising is what sustains us. So it's very important. And Giving Tuesday is sort of the day where you have that litmus test to see where you're at with all that, because what you really hope to bring in the brunt of what you'll need that day. So we don't have any information on the match. Facebook, deals in large volumes, and they said on Thursday they'll be releasing that information to the charities. So we will know then. But in the meantime, I figured I would just close down the night with what I kind of like to do a lot and do anyways, and that is drink tea and read poetry, and I'm often on a Rumi bent, and I picked up this book in India this summer. I actually bought it for myself for my birthday, because when you're in India for your birthday, you got to get your own present for yourself. But actually somebody did give me a present as well, which was pretty cool, and actually have it here. Low power mode, so next time it's at 20%, which at 10%, Luke, it's time to go. She gave me this. This is a dancing Shiva, which was cool. It was a woman from Delhi who gave that to me. Alright, so I'm just gonna, this is how I usually roll with Rumi, just like open it and read. And Giving Tuesday, that's why I'm opening up my routine I like to do in the evening to like calm my brain down for whatever mischief it got into that day. So I really just want to keep kind of a beacon out there for the integral heart, and this is, I think, a good way to do that. So hope you, if you okay, the thing about Rumi you gotta understand is he was a writer like me. He was probably a far more talented writer than I will be, but that's not important. The thing is as a writer, all writers should be very interested in Rumi, and basically all people, because he was just a fascinating character. So he was a Sufi, which was a mystical school of Islam in the 13th century, and he was, in his time, a very learned professor. So he was this scholar, very esteemed teacher, and often at that time, your professors are also like spiritual leaders, so he was also like a spiritual teacher. And he, long story short, sort of had these, that's an overflowing cup. All right, it's hard to talk and prepare ceremonial tea, So this is a sticky rice two-cha pu'er. Pu'er is an aged type of tea, and that is a branch of tea I have been quite fascinated by ever since I started tasting it. So Rumi had these changes in his life which caused him to basically become a renunciant, and also to cut all sort of attachments, and a lot of that was in his writing. You're a writer, you're like, oh, people might read me in the future, like you kind of value yourself through your writing. Like, I can relate to that in some ways. And so he took all of his, like back then they didn't have computers, obviously, 13th century, so he took all of his books and he threw them into the river. So like everything he had ever written, he just tossed into a river, and that's pretty crazy. And then he started twirling around in a pole, I guess, in some sort of mystical state of transcendence, and everyone just thought he had gone mad. But then he would recite poetry, and they calculate that he must have been reciting 17 poems a day, basically, that were recorded, because they didn't record him for a while. He was just a lunatic twirling around a pole. But then people were like, we should start writing down what that dude that like threw all of his books into the river is saying. And 800 years later, we're reading him, and he's one of the best loved poets in the world. And none of the stuff that, before he went mad, none of that writing exists, and likely none of it would have persisted. He would have been just, an esteemed writer and scholar and teacher of his time, but he kind of gained this like immortality that was a selfless immortality in a way, because these are basically, it's often associated, Rumi, with love poetry, because it speaks of lovers and a beloved, but really it's deeper than that. Those are the metaphors simply towards like man or woman, the human's relationship with the divine. So it's very intriguing poetry if you've never heard Rumi, and I guess we don't need the book for one of my favorites by his, which is very much many people's favorites, I think. There's a Coldplay album where they have Coleman Barks, who's the most sort of accessible and I want to say livid, but that's not the word, like colorful, and I guess for lack of a better word, translator of Rumi today. So they have him reading it remixed on their latest album, I think, Kaleidoscope. I don't know, I'm not a huge Coldplay fan, but I am actually a fan of that album, not for least because there's Rumi in it. So this one is called The Guesthouse, a poem by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweeps your house bare, he may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the malice, the shame, greet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So that is, definitely a favorite enough to the point that we don't need the book for it. Just tuning in, I'm just doing my thing and opening a window to you guys tonight to keep a little beacon going for the Integral Heart. We've done very well today. We think there's some numbers that presumably we think are there that we have to wait till Facebook comes in with. But on what we do know, our global giving page, we have less than $1,000 to knock off the 2018 global giving page, which is being softly pushed because if you're tuning in, probably have been invited by me on Facebook to join, I think it's called Luke's Fundraiser for the Integral Heart, for lack of a more clever name. So that's at $751 when I started this. And my dream, because you can have a dream, right, is that it's like at $1,000 when I end this. I was going to say rambling, but I'm not really rambling this time. I'm just sharing with you some of my favorite poems, which I guess I get to do with many of you in person, but rarely, but sometimes I'm not in person with many of you, so this is cool. Whoever is tuning in, maybe nobody, but that's okay too. It's fun for me. All right, I turn to, it's called The Living Doubleness. I don't know, there's some poems in here I haven't even read, because when you just open to them, you can open like, that's why I like reading a book of poetry like that, just flipping it open, because if you read it from beginning to end, you're kind of like it's like a checklist, but this way it's like an ongoing discovery and rediscovery, and you can do that for years with like a book of poems, and then, well, lo and behold, like a new one, you thought you read them all, but a new one pops up, so I haven't had this one for years, so it's not so surprising, but all right. The Living Doubleness. I ask my heart, what do you keep looking for? Or, I'll start over. The Living Doubleness. Reading's hard, by candlelight. All right, persist. Carry on, Luke. I ask my heart, why do you keep looking for the delights of love? I hear the answer back. Why will you not join me in this companionship? This is the conversation of a human being, the living doubleness. Cool and in motion like water, placed and passionate like fire. Subtle as wind, yet obvious as a wine glass poured to the brim, spilled over and drunk down all at once for a toast. Like rain, you make any image more vivid. Like a mirror, you can be trusted to hold beauty. There are mean people who see only meanness reflected in you, but they are wrong. You are pure soul and made of the ground. You are eyeshadow and the kindness in eyelight. A ruby from no telling which mine, let yourself be set in a seal ring. lift the sword discernment that rules 1,000 compassions. Shams in the lovely shape of shams, spring source of invisible meaning. So Shams was Rumi's teacher. And as the story goes, before he threw all of his life work as a writer, as a scholar, into either, I forget, a river, a lake, he still had this like earthly attachment to Shams. And Shams, when I put the water back on to boil, Shams disappeared, and it seems that there was foul play involved. It's not completely known. Scholars are still sort of at odds about this, but he disappeared, and that's when Rumi's last attachment, as it is told, between him and the divine disappeared, and he went on to become the Rumi whose poems we know today. So, if you're just tuning in, if you're still tuning in, hopefully you've gotten to think about which charities. Maybe you've probably already donated today, 7 o'clock. Maybe you just got off work. Maybe you're one of those people that actually has to work at work and can't be on Facebook all day, like donating to charities like everyone else was. But anyways, yeah, the work with the Integral Heart in Guatemala. 7 of you visited us this year. Well, more did, but 7 of people, friends from Mindback, different places, came and visited. You walk in and usually it'll either be really quiet, or there'll be a lot of commotion, or there'll be kind of like a murmuring laughter if there's like a homework help class in session. But it's really this place of joy. It's this place of a lot of beauty, and when you hear the kids' stories one by one, that's when it becomes really shocking that this place can even exist. When you hear of the hardships of, parents sabotaging their kids' education, or when you hear of like poor and hardworking but ultimately unable to care for their children parents having to struggle through that. It's great to meet them at the Integral Heart Family Education Center in Guatemala, because you're meeting them after they've turned the corner and their story is starting to become really positive. A friend of mine sent me just some other stuff from a charity that she was getting and was like, look at all these sad pictures they sent. And it was true. Like, this charity had just sent a bunch of despondent kids' pictures. And I think you'll notice with Integral Heart, we don't really... at all, and except for I guess some of our before and after from the garbage dump, the kids that originated from human trafficking situations in garbage dumps, but we don't like to use those type of despondent images because that's not what's going on anymore with any of the kids in our program. They have a social worker who's keeping tabs on their family life. They have good nutritional meals happening. They're going to school. If they have medical issues, it's like the house mom of Integral Heart who lives there is the head of the education center. When Mick and Deborah are not there because they live off premise, of course. People can come there and they know they're taken care for. So as Mick said, it's a home away from home for 83 kids. It's these kids' stability in very unstable lives. And the coolest thing about it is it's supported by small donors like me. I give a very small amount every year, probably like 0.2%. But that's the thing, that the majority of our donors are donors that, take like 1/3% off our annual budget. And it doesn't take much. You're looking at like $400 annual, and you're at that range. And our largest donor comprises 8%. Mick ran all these numbers and they're fascinating, and I hope to work with Joe when he's back from India to get some images from this so that we can really tell that story, because the numbers really, both our retention rates of donors and how many of you doing what you can combines to make the Integral Heart this haven of hope, encouragement, positivity, and education possible. So that's really cool. And yeah, we'll return to some poetry right after. Well, you got to keep the tea rolling, right? You can't run out of that. That would be unacceptable for Giving Tuesday poetry fundraising night. All right, let's see what we turn to. This one's called A Light Within Light. I circled a while with each of the intelligences, the 9 fathers that control the levels of spirit growth. I have resolved for years with the stars through each sign. I disappeared into the kingdom of nearness. I saw what I have seen, receiving nourishment as a child lives in the womb. Personalities are born once, a mystic many times. Wearing the body robe, I have been busy in the market, weighing and arguing prices. I am the rose of eternity, not made of water or fire, not of the wandering wind or even earth. I play with those. I am not shams of Tabriz, but a light within his light. If you see me, be careful. Tell no one what you have seen. Well, I was reading that. I was thinking we did turn to probably one of the less accessible Rumi poems. But luckily, that's just my opinion. Maybe that was your favorite. So, this is, not sure how much of this you can see. My screen's blocked on the bottom. This is called Kung Fu Cha. This is the ceremonial way that they drink tea in China. To your health. So, I guess sometimes when you scroll through your feed, I think you see these videos, and so out of context, it might look like I'm taking shots live on Facebook, but that is, well, we can let people think that, but it's just tea. And it's delicious. All right, well, this can't go on forever, can it? So, one more Rumi poem, and then I will sign out. And thanks to everyone. It's so cool how many corridors of the world and how involved, I guess, and how interweaving the web of people that are supporting the Integral Heart is. So thanks to everyone that stays involved. And if you're not able to donate, like, no shame. That's okay. All of us have to say no to fundraisers because they're coming at us from every corner. So we do what we can, and it's always good just to connect and, like, give yourself space to really think about how you want charity to be in your life, and maybe even ask the charities that you support, like, what's sort of the best way for them. I know for us, we really like monthly donors, but it's also, you know, those one-time donors allow us to do these pushes and drives and kind of build momentum to get the support that we need. So thanks to everyone that takes part in Giving Tuesday. I think it's really nice. I was thinking about this a lot today, how nice it is that it's like Thanksgiving and it's like Black Friday. It's like, okay, do shopping and there's good deals. And then it's like Small Business Saturday, and then Sunday you have the day off, and then it's like Cyber Monday, go on the internet, and then it like all closes off with like giving to the charity of your choice. That's a cool way America has moved with all of its technologies and social medias to kind of convalesce around this nice exit to the start of the holidays that gets you thinking of giving back, which ultimately gets us thinking of how fortunate we are to be the ones like making these decisions of which charities to give to, not the ones on the other end hoping that these improved situations and circumstances will be able to continue, because sometimes the plug of those types of things gets pulled. And I guess before I close with a poem, I know I'll be repeating this hopefully the rest of my life. Something at a teaching I was fortunate to be at of the Dalai Lama this summer, he said that stuck with me with regards to charity fundraising was it's when you don't have anyone to help or take care of that you really sink into your own personal misery. So that made me feel just kind of really great around this part of fundraising. Because I'm involved on the ground in Guatemala in the ways I am, but it's really cool to think that this is useful to the people that are giving, that it's giving purpose and meaning. So awesome all around. All right, we turn to 66. It's called Granted. What happens in the world? What business of that is yours? Two existences have merged in a single temple, but where is your smiling image? Granted, there are terrible famines with no bread dipped in wine anywhere. You control what is manifest and what is hidden. Where is your warehouse of grain? Granted, thorn, scorpion, and snake exist, but where is your rose petal bed? Your joy that is a deep rest. Granted, human generosity has dried out, but you could still give us a pension and a silk robe. Granted, the sun and the moon go down daily, but not your light and your fire. Granted, the jeweler has nothing to sell. He stands by his empty stall. He could rain down pearls if you chose. Granted, there is no mouth nor any language, but where is your surging impulse? Come with me while the wine shop is still open. We are dizzy with meeting each other. Friend inside my chest and inside my hand, find your coat and your turban if you have not gone senile. Who has stolen your hat and carried off your clothes? Who will take care of you now? A stranger blocks us. You could be the arresting officer in the matter, the judge and the gallows, if that were your inclination. Word scatterer, hush this conversation. Say instead silence to those who never talk.